The moment she looked at me across my small living room, holding her phone in one hand and staring at me like she had just discovered something that completely changed the way she saw me. She said words that made my stomach drop. She said, "My dad wants to see you." Just like that, calm, direct, no hesitation. And the strange thing was, she didn't look angry, she looked almost impressed. But the truth is, at that moment, I didn't know whether my life was about to get better or completely fall apart. Because the woman sitting on my couch that morning wasn't just any woman. She was one of the most powerful billionaires in the state. Someone whose name appeared in business magazines and news headlines. Someone whose companies owned half the buildings downtown. And the night before it, she had slept in my house, in the small, quiet neighborhood where I lived as a single dad trying to raise my daughter the best way I knew how. I still remember the silence in the room after she said those words. My daughter was still asleep upstairs. The coffee machine hummed quietly in the kitchen, and there I was standing in front of a billionaire who had just told me her father wanted to meet me. So tell me something honestly, if you were in my place. A man with very little money but a lot of pride, raising a child alone and suddenly pulled into the world of powerful people who normally wouldn't even look in your direction. Would you be excited or terrified? Because I was both. My name is Marcus Bennett, and before that night happened, my life was simple. Not easy, but simple. I lived in a modest 2-bedroom house on the edge of the city with my 8-year-old daughter, Layla. Being a single father was never something I planned. Life just turned out that way. Layla's mother left when she was barely 2 years old. She said she wasn't ready for responsibility, that she wanted to travel and experience life. I didn't hate her for leaving, but I also didn't have the luxury of chasing dreams. I had a little girl who needed stability, and that meant I had to grow up fast. During the day, I worked as a maintenance supervisor at a commercial office building downtown. It wasn't glamorous work. Most days were spent fixing elevators, repairing plumbing, or dealing with air conditioning systems that decided to break at the worst possible times. But it paid the bills. At night, my life belonged to Layla. Homework at the kitchen table, cartoon movies on the couch, pancakes on Saturday mornings. It wasn't the kind of life people write movies about, but it was honest. And my daughter, she was the light in all of it. Layla had this energy about her that made people smile without even realizing it. She loved drawing pictures of superheroes and insisted that one day she would invent a robot that cleaned my tools after work. She believed in big dreams in a way only kids can. Sometimes when I looked at her, I wondered how someone so small could give me so much strength. But there was something else about our lives that I couldn't ignore. People judged. They didn't always say it directly, but you could see it in the way some parents looked at me during school pickup. A black single father in a quiet neighborhood where most families looked very different from ours. Some people were kind. Others kept their distance. I learned long ago that you can't control how people see you. All you can control is how you carry yourself. And I carried myself with pride. The night everything changed started like any other Thursday. I had just finished a long shift repairing a broken water system in the building's basement. By the time I left work, the sky had turned dark and rain had begun falling in steady sheets across the city. I stopped at the grocery store, grabbed a few things for dinner, and headed home. That's when I saw her. Her car was pulled over on the side of the road, about 2 blocks from my house. The hood was up, steam rising into the rain like a signal flare. At first, I was just going to drive past. It wasn't my business. But as I got closer, I noticed the woman standing beside the car, trying to hold an umbrella while looking at the engine like it might magically fix itself. Something about the situation made me slow down. Maybe it was the rain. Maybe it was the way she looked frustrated but determined at the same time. I parked my truck and stepped out. Car trouble? I asked. She turned toward me, and for a second I thought I recognized her face from somewhere. But the rain and the darkness made it hard to be sure. "Yes," she said, brushing wet hair away from her face. "I think the engine overheated." I looked under the hood for about 10 seconds before realizing the radiator hose had completely blown. "You're not driving this tonight?" I told her. She sighed. "Well, that's not ideal." I offered to call a tow truck, but when she checked her phone, she realized the storm had knocked out service in the area. That's when I said something that changed everything. "You can wait at my place until the rain slows down. It's just around the corner." She hesitated for a moment. I could see the calculation happening behind her eyes, a stranger offering help, a quiet street, a decision that could go either way. Finally, she nodded. "Okay." We walked to my house through the rain, and the moment we stepped inside, Layla ran down the stairs excitedly. "Dad, you're late." Then she saw the woman behind me and froze. "Who's that?" I introduced them. The woman smiled warmly at my daughter. "My name is Victoria." The name hit me like a delayed thunderclap. Victoria Hale. I'd seen that name on the news before. Billionaire, investor, CEO of Hale Industries, one of the most powerful women in the city, and she was standing in my living room. The night that followed was strange in a way I still can't fully explain. Victoria didn't act like someone used to luxury or attention. She sat at my kitchen table, eating the same spaghetti I made for Layla, and laughed at my daughter's stories about school. Hours passed before we even realized how late it had gotten. The storm outside became worse, roads flooded, and eventually it was clear she couldn't leave. So she stayed. She slept in the guest room. Nothing inappropriate happened. It was simply a storm, a house, and 3 people unexpectedly sharing the same space. But something changed in the air that night. Conversations turned deeper. She asked about my life, about raising Layla, about the struggles and small victories that defined my days. And I asked her something nobody probably asked her very often. "Do you ever get tired of being the person everyone expects you to be?" She looked at me for a long moment before answering. "All the time." Morning arrived quietly. I was making coffee when she came downstairs. That's when she said the words that started this story. "My dad wants to see you." At first I thought she was joking, but she wasn't. Victoria explained that her father had built the original Hale Industries empire before she took over the company. He was retired now, but still watched everything closely. Apparently, she had told him about the night she spent at my house. And he had one request: to meet the man who treated his daughter like a normal person. That's where I want to pause for a moment and ask you again if you were in my position right then. A single father who spent most days fixing pipes and wiring, suddenly invited into the world of billionaires and power. What would you do? Would you say yes? Or would you walk away before things became more complicated than your life was ready for? Because the truth is, what happened when I met her father changed everything for me, for Victoria, and for a lot of people who believed men like me didn't belong in rooms like that. And when the truth finally came out about why Victoria had really stopped her car that night, the people who doubted me the most were the ones left speechless. Looking back now, I realize something important. Sometimes the biggest moments in life don't start with grand plans or dramatic entrances. Sometimes they start with something as simple as stopping your truck in the rain to help someone whose car broke down. If you are on my side in this story, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more stories like this, and tell me in the comments what you would have done if you were in my shoes the night a billionaire knocked on my door. And trust me, this wasn't the last time my ordinary life collided with a world I never expected to be part of. I'll see you in the next story.